Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Bootcamp Blueprint, the place where personal trainers go to grow their bootcamp and social media. I'm your host, Jono, and I am super excited this week because we have a very interesting topic. I've got the expert and go-to person that fitness professionals seek out when they want to become the expert and go-to person in their field. Sounds interesting already, right? This person helps fitness entrepreneurs go from invisible to influencer, gets even better still, and more specifically, attract their target client using publicity. Now, one thing I love about this person here, one of her favorite quotes, which you'll find on her website, I've never ever had to look for a client, they've all come to me, and I'll show you how you can have that. As soon as I read that, I'm like, yep, I'm getting this person on my podcast. More specifically, her clients have been featured on Shape, Self, Pilates Style, Fit Pregnancy, Huffington Post, and Inc. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only Ms. Lisa Simone Richards. Lisa, how are you?
I am phenomenal. I'm super jazzed for this conversation. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
You're welcome. Hey, Lisa, I like to start all these interviews off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up. Have you got one for us?
I do. Okay, so here's the funny thing. I've literally never seen Star Wars in my life. I always get a reaction when I say that. And I love the quote from Yoda, do or do not, there is no try. You're either in, you're out. No in between.
Love it. I love that so much because believe it or not, that's one I live by. So whenever I speak to anyone, specifically my listeners, and they're like, oh yeah, hey, I'll try and do that. I'm like, oh, sorry, I've actually removed the word try from my vocabulary. I don't know what it means, right? I've removed it from my vocabulary. Don't know what it means. So I love that you've used that. Hey, Lisa, just before we get into it, I also like to ask all my guests, if you meet someone new, let's say you're at a barbecue and someone's like, hey, Lisa, what is it that you do? What do you tell them? Do you give them the roll call like I gave you, or do you have a summarized version? What do you say?
So I love something called a marketing mission statement that I learned from one of my mastermind colleagues, Amy Yamada. So it's a bit of a twist on the elevator pitch. So essentially what I'll say to those people is health, fitness, and wellness business owners hire me to go from invisible to influencer. As a publicist, I do this by getting them featured on television, magazines, websites, podcasts, and anywhere else our ideal client is going to find them.
Love it.
And I do it for free. Like my services aren't free, but I can get you featured in those places without having to pay for it.
That's awesome. And that's one of the reasons why I'm super excited for this podcast, Lisa, because that's something I'm not that familiar with. That's not exactly my specialty. You know, I've never been featured on a magazine or TV or anything like that. I'm more the boot camp background. Now you work with boot campers as well. Have you worked with any boot campers?
I have. I actually used to be a boot camp instructor myself. Back in 2009, I worked for Canada's largest women's only boot camp called Booty Camp Fitness. So I spent 4 really fun years there. I started doing the PR for the company. And no, hold on, let me take it back a notch. I started with a girlfriend doing this boot camp workout, and we were loving it. We had so much fun. It was outdoors. We were getting results. When they were hiring a PR person, like I put my hand up, especially because I don't think they really knew what to pay people. So they offered a salary that was double what I was making at an agency. So I was like 100% I'm in. It was way less stress too. So I did PR for that boot camp, and then I actually started instructing for them as well. So that's how I actually got into teaching fitness.
That's awesome. So you've got an understanding of what it's like, because I'm just a bit worried, you know, some of the listeners might be like, oh, Lisa, she's a big star. She's been on TV, magazines. She doesn't know what it's like to work at a gym and struggle to get people to come down, or sitting in the park bench hoping that people come. You feel that, right? You've been there?
I have. And you know what? I had the same struggle as well, because something I saw all the other boot camp instructors had, we would teach on Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. And typically you would have 2 time slots. So like a 6:30 and a 7:30. But I only had a 6:30 and I wanted a 7:30. If I was already going to be there, let me throw on an extra hour so I can make twice the income. So I had to actually figure out how to get PR and visibility for myself so I could attract people in my local market who would want to come to my second time slot.
Love it. Cool. All right, let's get into it. Oh, actually, just before we do, what about now? Do you have any experience working with other boot camp owners? Have you helped them grow or get publicity? Anything like that for the listeners you can share? Any success stories?
Yeah, so Booty Camp Fitness was my big one. I've worked with a bunch of other health, fitness, and wellness brands over the last 10 years. So that's my wheelhouse. I love working with people who want to make sure that other people live lives full of vitality. And I guess a cool success story I can tell you about when I did work with Booty Camp Fitness is we got ourselves into a position where we were getting TV features probably once a month. We were definitely in multiple media outlets every month. And what was really cool is we were able to grow from 30 locations to 100 across Canada. We took our revenue from 400,000 a year to 4 million. And what was really, really awesome is that, I'm a big believer in collaboration over competition. But I would say there are probably 3 or 4 other competitive women's only boot camps. So I obviously worked in-house at this one. I could see how many sales we had. We were typically always 100, 110% sold out. But, I would do the drive-by and check out other boot camps and see how they were doing. They were at 50% or so. So it's so interesting to see, there were all these other boot camps that had spots, except we were the ones who had the waiting list because we were the ones everybody was talking about.
Love it. I am so excited to get into it after that. So let's get started. Where do we start, Lisa? Where's the first place someone's starting? A boot camp instructor's watching this. Yeah, I want to get on TV. I want to get on a magazine. What's the very first thing they need to do?
Okay, cool. So let me go into, firstly, why PR and publicity is a little bit important, just to give some people some background in case they're not familiar with how it works. And then I have something called the ladder of publicity that I'll talk you through. So if I forget that, please bring me back around to it. So essentially, with PR and publicity, this is valuable because when you're on social media, that's your owned media. So that's a media that you can control. You have your followers, your fans, and that's awesome. But anybody can do it. You're not special. The second type is paid media. So that's when you're buying advertisements, Facebook ads, Google ads, and of course they can be relevant if you're in the right point of your business. But the second your ad spend goes off, you stop being seen. And again, anybody can do it. But when it comes to getting featured in the media, that takes something special. You are getting endorsed by this highly credible body. You're getting featured for free for the most part. Like when you're reading through Self Magazine, Shape Magazine, all those different outlets, those people haven't paid to be on those pages. The people they're interviewing or contributing workouts, they may even get paid to get featured. So I'm all about, why would you want to spend money on getting seen when you could just be in content, when you could be featured? And what's really cool about PR and publicity is that you get a 4x ROI on that. So let's say, for example, you bought an ad in Forbes magazine. A full page costs about $136,000. But we know it's an ad. We typically flip through it. However, if you got a story written about you in Forbes magazine, someone is reading that content and believing the story about you because a credible journalist has placed you there. So it actually has 4x the value. So math isn't my strong suit, but that's something like $500,000 versus, a $136 ad. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Cool. Let's move on from there. That sounds awesome. I'm super excited to get right into it now. As soon as we get off this podcast, I'm going to, see what I can do to get, what I can get featured. So,
and I promised I would tell you about the ladder of publicity. I remembered.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Should we start there?
Cool. Yeah, let's do that. So if someone has never been featured anywhere, it's really important to know that, most people come to me and they're like, they've never been anywhere before. And they're like, I want to be on Oprah. I want to be on Ellen. And you have to build some credibility to get there. There are some people who go from 0 to 100. That is not the typical path. So I like to take my clients through a process where they start building the foundation and building their confidence. So when the day comes that Dr. Oz, the doctors, whatever television show or magazine comes calling, you're actually ready to be there. So typically I have my clients start off doing guest blog posts. I think that's a great way to start getting seen in front of other audiences in a way that you're not paying for it. It's also a great opportunity to drive people back to your own website and to your own lead magnet so you can grow your elusive email list. And then after that, I love the concept of doing podcasts just like this. So for a lot of podcasts, typically they're not necessarily filmed. Full disclosure, guys, I was on a podcast the other day. There was no camera. I was just walking around in a t-shirt and underwear. It's so comfortable to just have a conversation with somebody. So again, as you start doing these things, your confidence is growing. You're developing your voice. So after that, I always encourage them to hop into Facebook Lives and do trainings for other people's groups and to add value there, because now you're getting comfortable being seen on camera. And I also specify these 3 because I have what I call the media mix. Some people love to learn by reading. Some people love to learn by watching. Some people love to learn by listening. So this way you're covering all of your bases. Now, once you've gotten comfortable in those 3 types, let's move up. Let's talk about doing local, if you have a bricks and mortar studio or gym or boot camp, local newspaper is where you're going to actually drive foot traffic from. The local morning show is a great place to get featured as an expert. And then you want to start thinking nationally. How can you get featured in the shapes of the world selves? Honestly, it's really cool to be in a print magazine, but getting on the website is probably better because they have so many pages that they can fill. And if you want that click back to your site as well. So I know I've never really gone on anyone's website and seen on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Like, that's not what happens. You say as seen on NBC, ABC, CNN, whatever 3-letter TV stations there are. So that's what really helps you to build your credibility. And that's how I advise people actually move up through the ranks.
Okay, cool. Now, am I right in saying, Lisa, you've got a checklist that you could give away to my audience if someone's like, "Whoa, that was so much in such a short amount of time"? Is there a written down version? Is there a checklist we can get?
There is. And Jono, if I'm going too fast, like, I'm a crazy energizer buddy, so tell me to slow down. I'm happy to do that. What was really cool is I helped my business coach get featured in Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, Huffington Post, a few other places. And, just because I love her and she's made such a big difference for me, she wasn't even a client of mine. I just helped her do this. So I want other people to never be the best kept secret in their industry. So I've actually created a checklist that's called How to Get Featured in Forbes, Inc., Fast Company, and other major media. So this could apply to getting in Shape, Self, Muscle Fitness, whatever publication your ideal client is paying attention to. So you can find that over at lisasimonerichards.com/Jono, Jono.
Love that link. And none of my listeners should forget that. So it's www.lisasimonerichards/Jono, Jono.
That's it.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. So let's do a bit of a summary there. So the first stage of that ladder was social media-ish. So you've got 3 ways you can do that. You can either do the blog, the guest blog. You can do a guest live on someone else's Facebook group or Facebook page, or you can be a guest on their podcast. And I love how you broke down those 3 things, because as trainers, it's the same thing, right? If we're going to explain an exercise or a workout to someone, hey, we're going to write it on the board so they can read it. Hey, we're going to explain it to it so they can listen to it. Hey, we're going to demo a few reps and get them to do a few reps so they can watch us do it. So yeah, I love that there. What about, how do they go about that? So someone might be like, yeah, that's all well and good, but what do I do? Do I just, stalk this person on social media? Do I just send them an email and say, hey, I want to be on there? Is there a strategy to ensure that they say yes to us? Have you got any tips or ideas there?
That is the best question. I'm so happy that you asked me that. So in my own Facebook group the other day, somebody actually said she has a bricks and mortar business, and she's like, I'm going to reach out to the local newspaper and see if they want to interview me. And I was like, yeah, no, please don't do that. You're not going to get a yes. And I always remember when I started PR school, one teacher said the harshest line ever, but I've never forgotten it. Nobody cares about you, your business, or your brand as much as you do. And that's honestly the truth. If you approach a media outlet and you're like, hey, I'm so great, write about me, they don't care. So I always advise people to think outwards. How can you make a difference for people? So what kind of content is the reader, the listener, or the viewer interested in having? And help the editor, help the producer, help the writer actually bring that content to light. So whenever I'm pitching a publication, I'm like, this is what's going to be relevant for your readers. This is why now is the time to talk about it. And here's why I'm the person who's qualified to talk about it. So I don't even make me a part of that conversation until the very end, because once they're sold on it being good for their audiences, then they're going to be a little more curious about me. But if I lead it off with, hey, I'm Lisa Simone and I'm so awesome and I've done all this stuff, I've lost them in the first paragraph.
I think they're spam when I get that, because I always get these people trying to fix up my website. Hey, we'll fix your SEO. They go straight in my junk. So if someone's talking themselves up, I just trash them straight away. So I love that strategy. And am I right in saying you've got a bit of a checklist on your website as well, how to get featured on podcasts? Do you have that on your website too?
I do. Yeah, I love that you brought that up. So when I launched my online business in 2016, I launched a course. I spent my entire tax refund on a website, a designer, and everything, and not a single person bought. And I didn't realize that I needed to be doing for myself what I was doing for my clients, actually getting my name out there and not being the best kept secret. So that year I went on to do something like 20 or 25 podcasts, and that's when I started actually building my own audience. So what I've created is a 5-day challenge, and it's called the Pitch to Podcast Challenge. And it teaches you how to find the right podcast that your ideal client is listening to, because your favorites may not be what your ideal client is paying attention to. So you have to be in the right spot. It also teaches you how do you come up with a really good pitch. So it's not about like, hey, I'm Lisa Spoon, I'm great, you should feature me. It's how do you come up with really good ideas that the podcast host is going to want to say yes to. And then how do you even find that person in the first place? How do you find their email address? So I give you some tips on how to do some great creeping, which I like to call sleuthing when I'm being professional, so that you can find that person and reach out to them.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I think that's a good start. So anyone listening to this, cool. That's our step one. We're going to go out and we're going to get featured on blogs, on podcasts, on Facebook Lives. And Lisa's given us some awesome tips there. She's given us some further resources as well. What about that next step, Lisa? Now we're getting on social media. We're building a bit of a list on social media. But now we're like, hey, we want to get on that local paper. We want to get on that local morning show. There's obviously going to be some similarities on how we approach them, but is it any different to social media? Do we leverage off social media? Can that help us? What's the next stage there? How do we get to that next rig on the ladder?
Yeah, so I think what's really important there is to use your social media strategically. So let's say you want to get featured on a live television show, like a morning show that's shot live. Then you should be doing Facebook Live videos talking about the content you want to be on television for. Because when you reach out to that producer, you better believe that they want to see how you translate on camera. And if you're doing a Facebook Live, there are no cuts, there are no reshoots. So this is a way for you to actually develop what you do when you trip over your words, and to perfect that camera presence and to show that to a producer. If you know you want to be featured in a magazine, newspaper, somewhere that's print-based, then write a blog topic on that post. And here's a little fun nugget that I'm going to give you. So let's say you want to be like one of my clients, Cassie. She is a trainer for women who want to go into the weight section of the gym confidently. Her program is called Lift Like a Boss. So she got featured and did an article on self.com. What I wanted her to do was have a similar article on her website, so an extension, not a copycat of the article, because if someone's read the 5 tips to better glutes or something on a website, if there's a link that says for 5 more tips, click here, if they've read all the way to the bottom, they're already a warm lead and they're interested. So then they click over to Cassie's site, read the rest of the blog post. But what if she says, enter your name and email address here, and I'll show you a video of the 3 best moves to do. This is all how you're using your own social media in a way that's going to get someone to say yes to you, but you're also doing it in a way that you grow your subscriber base. So it's not just one and done that they check out your website or they've read you on that place. They actually put their hands up and say, I'd like to get more information from you because I was so digging what you already shared.
Love it. And I love 2 major points there. The first one was so simple. Well, hey, if you want to get on TV, do Facebook Lives. Hey, if you want to get on a print-based thing, do some blogs. And then I'm sure it's with radio, it's probably podcasts. Hey, you want to get on radio? Hey, listen to me on these podcasts. So I love that side of things there. But I also like the lead capture thing as well, because it's all well and good to be seen, but if you can't follow that person up, you've almost wasted an opportunity, and we hate that, right? Because we know how hard it is to get featured on other people's things and get out there in publicity, and then if we don't take advantage of that opportunity, that's going to suck. So I love those things there. Now, what sort of content should we put out there, Lisa? If someone's listening to this and they're like, all right, that's all well and good, but what sort of content should I do? What are these people like seeing? What would your advice be there? What sort of content we can put out there that media would like to see?
So I would say start about it by thinking, number one, where do you want to get featured? Let's say it's a website like shape.com. So head over to Shape's website. What kind of articles are they creating? Are they doing the 7 top ways to, the best things, the things to avoid? Mimic what they're doing and actually create similar content on your own site. So I think something that people do is they'll come up with an idea and they mass pitch it out. And it doesn't show any care for the publication, the way that they talk to their readers, listeners, viewers, whatever their audience is. So if you can actually take the time to understand how a publication talks to their reader or to their audience, and you're able to pitch in a way that's in conjunction with that, they're going to really appreciate it, because they get so many crappy pitches every day that they know that someone just copy and pasted. Maybe they even took the time to change the person's name. Probably not. That's what's really going to help you stand out. And always make sure you change the name. I have definitely sent pitches out with the wrong name on them and the wrong publication. The mistakes that I have.
Okay, cool. I love that too, because what I'm feeling a theme here, Lisa, which it's completely changed my opinion. Not that I've ever been on TV or magazines or anything, but I feel like the flow of it is it's all about them. It's almost like, hey, you're the back seat. If you want to get featured, hey, find where you want to get featured, read that or watch that or see in and out what they do, and then you can tailor your pitch and your content to that there. Is that right?
That's exactly it. And again, like I always encourage people to think of how they act as a consumer. So if you were flipping through a magazine, there's like, read this 3-page story about John Doe that you've never heard about and you probably don't care about. Like, you're not going to read it. So think about, how is someone else going to perceive this on the other end? What are the emails that show up in your inbox that you're quick to hit delete on? How can you make sure that you are not that person? So I think one thing is we're just so connected to our businesses, we're almost in too deep. So it makes a lot of sense to take 3 steps back, see it from the bigger picture, see it through somebody else's lens, and then you can actually behave in a way that would capture a consumer's attention and then potentially convert them into a client.
Love it. One more thing, Lisa. I want to touch on the ideal client. How toned in do we need to be on that ideal client in terms of getting publicized? Is it easy just to be the fitness specialist, or do you need to narrow down? How narrow do you need to get? What can you tell us about that?
Okay. So this is an analogy that I love. I can't remember who I should be giving credit to this to. So somebody else taught me this. I didn't come up with it. But let's look at the field of doctors for a second. You have a general practitioner, and then you have a top cardiac surgeon. Who makes more money?
I would go with the top cardiac surgeon, I'd say.
100%. It always pays to be a specialist rather than a generalist. So especially when you're talking about that ideal customer and you want to have messaging and language that actually captures them, if you're saying, I help men and women lose weight and eat better, that doesn't resonate with anyone. It doesn't drive an emotional connection from me, and we all buy based on emotion for the most part, to be very honest with you. Emotion first, logic second. However, if you were to say, I work with new moms who just had to bathe their baby a year ago and they're dying to get their pre-baby body back. You know, a mom hears herself in that, and it really helps to draw your ideal client to you. And honestly, it repels a person who's not the right client, because if that's not who you would work with anyways, it doesn't matter if they're not following you. They were never going to hire you. So I really encourage people to be very specific and laser in who their ideal client is and the messaging that they use to get in front of them. It's okay to be polarizing. Push the wrong people away, invite the right people in.
Love it. Now, what about one particular area in terms of the exercise side of things? Is that important? Is it okay just to have your niche and say, hey, that's who I work with? Or do you also need to specialize in one area and say, hey, I'm the weights expert, or I'm the HIIT expert, or I'm the glute expert? Anything like that?
I think, there are a few different ways that you can package it. I think there are examples of people who've done all of this, really. So I think about, first, Jen Selter comes to mind. She's the Instagram queen of butts. That's what she's known for. I also think about Emily Skye or Kayla Itzines, and they don't have a specific body part that they talk to. They just have a really great movement for women in fitness. Then I go and think about someone
I love how you brought up the Australians, by the way.
Oh, I did that just for you, just saying. And then I go and think about someone like Harley Pasternak, and he has the 5-factor fitness and then the 5-factor diet. So he has his own shtick around the 5-factor, whatever it is, that's his thing. So I think it's really important to just be authentic to yourself and focus on what you're good at and what you love to do, really, and think about a unique way that you can package it. Because we're seeing examples of people doing it in all different ways. So you just get to find what's really true for you.
Awesome. Well, hey, Lisa, we're coming to the end of the podcast here. Couple questions I'd like to finish up with. You're obviously the go-to person and the expert when it comes to fitness professionals getting featured on media. Where do you go? Where do you go for your inspiration, education? Any books, any podcasts, any social media people we should follow? Who do you recommend?
Wow. So I can typically listen to up to 6 podcasts a day. I'm such a crack addict for them. So some of my favorite podcasts to listen to, I have my phone beside me. I'm so tempted to check. I love James Wedmore's The Body. Oh, geez. I have to look that one up. Frick. I have to remember the name of this one. I'm looking it up, guys. Just give me 1 second. I want to give you the name of it because it's so good. So I'm honestly a little bit woo. And by a little bit, I mean totally woo. So I love his podcast, which is called...
James Wedmore was the name of the podcast host?
That's the host, and it's called the Mind Your Business podcast. So that one's all about business, but it also speaks to mindset as well, because that's really important. Your mind's got to be on board to create the result. Who else do I love listening to? I love the Wellness Business podcast. Those women are incredible. Chris Harder's For the Love of Money is great. Lewis Howes Anything. Of course, I love Lewis Howes. So those are my top go-to podcasts. Who else do I follow? I think I went to something like 7 conferences that I flew to last year. So I'm a big junkie for Shanda Sumter, who's my own business coach. Lisa Sasevich is great for speaking. So those are some of my biggest online influencers.
Love it. Little interesting fact. I just actually registered for Lewis Ho's Inner Circle yesterday.
I'm in there. I will see you in there. Yes. He did a training with Jasmine Star yesterday.
Yeah, I got an email from that. So I was like, okay, because that's what interested me. I watched his Instagram webinar and I was like, okay, he knows a thing or two about Instagram. Hold on, he's got a whole Inner Circle. Hold on, that's a bargain for that price. I'm in. Yeah. So I've even just changed my Instagram yesterday as a result. So, okay.
I was literally listening to that and I was working, but then I went on to Instagram and started changing it right as I was listening to that conversation. So it is so cool that you mentioned that.
Yeah. All right. Wait, Lisa, I just want to go over some of these links, make sure we've got them. So the free link or the link for the checklist was simply www.lisasimonerichards.com/Jono.
Woohoo, that's it.
Perfect. The how to get on the podcast is just simply on your website, which is www.lisasimonerichards.com.
Yep, the URL for that one is free-challenge, but it's on the homepage anyways. You will see it.
Awesome. Any other places where people can find you? If my listeners are like, this Lisa, she's awesome. I want to follow her on Insta. I want to join this Facebook group. I want to read her blogs. Is there any other places they should go?
You know what? I'm not hanging out on Instagram so much right now, although I am going to step up my game there. Thank you, Jasmine. But where I hang out the most socially is in my Facebook group, which is called Get Seen, Get Clients, Get Paid. So search that in the search bar and you can come hang with me and my crew. And every week I stream live on Thursday, giving tips on how you can go from invisible to influencer so that you can make an influence, impact, and income.
Love it. I'm in that group as well, so you'll see me in that group. Well, hey, Lisa, that's actually all we've got time for today. Is there anything I missed, anything I should have asked you but didn't, anything you want to add on to that?
I think we've covered so much today. So if I could leave one lasting thought with the listeners, it would be, don't let this just be interesting information that you consumed over 30 minutes. Like, take action. Shoot me an email if you want to, lisa@lisasimonerichards.com, and tell me the one step that you're going to take as a result of listening to this. I would love to know. So yeah, we don't get rewarded for great ideas. We get rewarded for execution. So do something with this.
Love it. And if I can just add on to that as well, something is always better than nothing. Just get out there and make an attempt. Another one of my favorite quotes, I think you'll like this as well, Lisa. I never lose. I either win or I learn. They're the two things that can happen. So if you're listening to this, just go out and give it a crack. You're either going to get featured or you're not, and you're going to learn from that and tailor it. But anyways, Lisa, thank you very much for your time. We'll be in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. I love chatting with you today.
Thank you, Lisa.